Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the wildly talented, the very kind-hearted, the amazing musician and veterinarian, and my good friend. I had the pleasure of saying that. Dr. Ross Henderson, welcome to The Flow Within, man. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for that intro.
You're welcome.
Did you say it was $5 for me to have you say that?
We'll talk about that later.
That's good to see you. It's definitely been a while.
Sure. It has been a while. It's been too long. What's new, man? Like, how's the vet practice going?
Yeah, the vet side of things is a little crazy. Ever since the pandemic, adoption of dogs went up 40%, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of animals that needed homes significantly decreased. But veterinarians, we were kind of understaffed, and with all the restrictions and more people, everything taking 3-4 times as long, it was a lot of stress and strain on the profession. And even still right now, there's anywhere from 4 to 9 hour waits at ERs. We'll start a day and have 8 or 9 ERs on deck, let alone. So it's a very, very busy time. I've pretty much had to jump in an extra day since January. And it's a pretty high stakes profession and takes a lot of physical energy, emotional energy, and just trying to keep a head above water sometimes, but working with my family, and we got a great staff, and we try and encourage them and keep them the morale high, because it's very easy for that to start to slip, especially with everything.
And what's the name of the clinic again?
Fox Hollow Animal Hospital.
Yeah.
We're in Lakewood, Colorado.
That's so cool. And your dad started it, right? And then you and your brother stepped in, and
so in 1996 he moved from his former practice that he was working as a vet, started Fox Hollow. Actually at a transition period where he was seeing clients in our house. I think it was legal. I think he was legally doing that. And then opened up the practice, and we've expanded 3 times. But we've got 7 doctors, mostly full facility. We don't do eye surgery or back surgery, but diagnostics. It's crazy because, are we 25 years or something? I don't know if that math adds up, but.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, actually, I think it is.
We're 25. Musicians, not mathematicians, man.
But anyways, so.
That's really cool. So how about your love for animals? Did that come from your dad working in the house with animals a bunch?
We grew up with tons of animals, and then my dad being a vet, if we didn't have school or something, and my mom was a flight attendant, so she'd be gone, we just would go to work with my dad, Oh,
nice. So you're around animals all the time.
And a few times that got me into trouble. I'd find the stapler and stapled through my thumbnail. But my dad's like, we don't have to go to the ER, and he removed it. And then, just growing up around animals, we had 2 dogs, 2 cats, some hermit crabs. They've just been around us all the time. And then I think my understanding of his profession matured maybe when I was nearing the end of high school. I realized that it wasn't just playing with puppies and doing cool surgeries, that there's a threshold of a type of person that can handle what's required for being a vet, and that was the most terrifying thing ever. And I mean, still to this day, I'm not sure if I have that strip of DNA. It seems like, because it's a pretty heavy profession a lot of the time.
I can only imagine. That's really cool. So you and your brother both followed in his footsteps. You even went to the same school as your dad, right?
Almost. I went to a school in Edinburgh, Scotland. My dad went to Trinity College, Dublin.
Oh, Dublin. Okay.
So he was in Ireland, but similar styles of teaching, and they have different requirements to be a member of this Royal College of Veterinary Medicine, which requires a lot more clinical and working experience, which is cool. Another benefit of graduating over there is you can practice anywhere in the Commonwealth, anywhere in Great Britain. So that was cool because I was like, man, especially when like the TV show was happening, I was like, I legally could go to Australia or Canada or like travel around and legally get, or be a credible veterinarian.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you graduate in the States, there's a lot more hiccups and tangles.
Gotcha. So it gave you a lot more avenues. That's really cool. And then fast forward a few years, you're working at the vet clinic, and then you're bringing your guitar to soothe some animals, playing some songs to them.
That sounds a little. You're giving me too much credit. I brought my guitar because like music is like my biggest passion outside of like being a veterinarian, of course. And so I took the liberty of my dad being my boss and having maybe some extra cushion to bring my guitar to work. And I don't know if I ever would have brought my guitar to work if I was working just for another vet, like that would be kind of weird. Like, hey, we just hired this vet. Well, he's got his guitar. Why is he playing it instead of doing his notes? Anyway, I was playing and trying to learn some covers and some other things. And one of my patients was like freaking out in the back. We were getting ready for a spay procedure, and I went back and was sitting with her, and she calmed down and like laid on my lap, and I was like, oh. It's like, well, I guess I could kill two birds with one stone. And so I started playing guitar, and then she like snuggled in, and I was just like, well, this is cool. And our manager walked by and was like, is this real right now? I was like, what? She's like, hold on. And she got her phone and filmed me playing it. And then she posted it, and then Beck and I went on a little retreat, like a marriage retreat thing, and my phone's blowing up, and she said I ruined the whole retreat because I was like watching craziness happen on social media. She's like, you weren't even here the whole time. Anyways, and then that's when the landslide of like the social media stuff happened.
How did that change like everything? Because I mean, obviously you're a veterinarian, you love playing music, you're in there, you're just doing your thing naturally, and then you're going to do the same thing, but now you have like 40,000 to 100,000 people watching you like on a daily basis when you do this.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting because I think there's something that obviously connected that was natural, and I think that it was, I don't know, it was kind of cool. Like I think that there was an emotional connection to an audience, and then when the news stations picked it up, and then the dodo is actually when it kind of went into the stratosphere. They did a montage because I'd continue to post more videos and things. But I think that my understanding is people like to see heartfelt connection, and when it's with animals, which are like the purest form of life in a lot of ways, I think that it resonates in a different way. And yeah, so the dodo then created opportunities where the production teams were reaching out. And they're like, hey, we didn't realize you're this singing vet, but also you've got this family who are also veterinarians. This is very interesting. And then that's what kind of triggered all that. But yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
That's such a cool experience, man. And I mean, you and I, we've played guitar a lot together in the past, and it's always fun watching you play too, because you and I have very different styles when we approach music. So I remember like you and I in the basement sometimes, and like you do something, I'm like, whoa, how'd you do that? And you're like, I just did this. And then I'm like, I do something, you're like, how'd you do that? And we just kind of traded back and forth. But it's so cool when you see people combining passions. And so it's just really cool to like, when I saw your video of just like, oh yeah, there's Ross playing to puppies. Like for me, I was just like, that's totally natural. Like for me, it didn't seem like anything, unreal, just because I know you as a person. I know that's exactly what you want to do. But so how has music kind of progressed since then? I mean, obviously, you've put together a band or two, and
So originally, I mean, similar. Like we're kind of in a similar vein as far as playing solo shows at breweries and maybe doing like an original set on a set list or a lineup at venues and things like that. My first fear was that I was going to get like just stuck in like, oh, that's cute, of vets playing to animals, and like hey, maybe we'll get a bunch of animals and you can play to them or something. And I'm just like,
just like a broken wheel. Just
like, please no. Yeah. And, but it was cool because I think like the production team and, a lot of the people on social media, I think like they saw that video, connected with it, saw that I was a vet, and then kind of got through the threshold of like wanting to keep up on social media stuff. Very few people got through the multiple thresholds and kind of found that, okay, Russ does take this seriously and has put in time and is, writes and produces and sings and things like that. But that's why the TV show was cool, because they followed some of that and me meeting a guy named Kenny Passarelli, who has been playing music for 40 years. He played bass with Elton John for 2 years when he was touring and did was it the Dodger Stadium or whatever, and played with Joe Walsh. And like being able to hear and talk with him, who's literally lived one of the craziest musician lives that I've ever heard, and that experience, and him, and talking about how like there were so many things that just as a person that I could relate to, and him relating to, with the emotion of veterinary medicine and or playing music. And it was just really, really cool. And hearing him compliment some of my music and jumping in and doing a show where he played bass in my band, I was just like,
yeah, that was up in Golden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I went to that show. That was a great show.
So that was super cool. Since then it's just been, I don't know if you can relate, but since then I've got this cloud of like perception of what I would love to do with music, and as far as like having a ton of songs that maybe haven't been completely finished or whatever, but also now that I'm going on 33, I have a wife and a dog and like a busy life. I just feel like I'm falling into the cliche of just like life getting in the way, and then you blink and 5 years goes by, because this is now, I guess it's been 3 years or so since all this stuff happened.
Yeah. So does that put you in a different headspace then, like when you're creating music? Because you said that, obviously you got famous for like playing some Elvis to some puppies, but then you obviously have this completely different musical side, like you were talking about. Like you're a brilliant just guitar player and singer, but you're also a songwriter. You're also a producer. You produced one of my EPs. like you have all these other talents. So does that affect your headspace? Like does that kind of get you into this weird mind state when like you're trying to kind of produce what people want versus like what you want to do? Like how does that kind of affect
so like,
your creation? Like
the 4 songs that I have under my personal name minus one of them, so 3. 3. Those were me trying to strategically place songs that would be featured in the show and just make them accessible. But like the song "Desperate to Please," that one is like, to me, that one is totally up my avenue and vibe. But yeah, I feel like 80% of my music, like truth, like nobody's even seen, which is very frustrating.
I can definitely sympathize with that.
Yeah.
Although 100% of my, like desired musicality has been seen by 5% of people out there. But I was put my all into it. But that doesn't really drive the views, the listens. But I totally understand. It's a tough world, because as musicians, like lots of times we want to play what we want to play, but then you listen to what's popular on the radio and what's getting millions and tens of millions of views and listens, and you're just like, that's not what I want to do, but that's what people like right now.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard being a local hometown musician.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know. Sometimes I'll hear like from Mayer's Born and Raised, like one of his songs is like, his dreams don't fly as high as they used to. Like lines like that. I'm not there yet. Like I've still got some like secret dreams, you know, that I'm just like, hey, this would be really cool, or I wonder if there's a way to do it. But like I definitely see how that could happen, you know, and that's very discouraging, you know. And I don't know, like I don't know. Do you feel like, man, if I could go back to 22, I would just spend all day just going on TikTok and just be the TikTok guitarist, music. Like I feel like it's almost easier now.
I feel like, gosh, when I was 22, I feel like YouTube was only a few years old. I feel like that would be a great place to like really pour energy into. I mean, any social media, like medium. Right now, TikTok's all the rage. I'll tell you what, I downloaded TikTok for about 30 seconds, and I was like, maybe I'm already an old man or something like that. But I like draw the line at, you know.
TikTok's really cool. I like it. Definitely a TikTok fan.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll join it just to follow you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. But yeah, it's interesting, man. I'm like the farthest person from understanding, like the proper way to navigate how to do music and everything. I think like I see a lot of people who see the platform that I have, and they're probably like, have you not done more with it? And I'm just like, dude, I tried. It, like even with like I find it's very difficult. Like with a viral video, you kind of create this little rut and lane where with me it's like I'm a vet who sings to animals, and that's what people connected to, and you feel very restricted by like trying to stay in that lane, you know, but like trying to sidestep or it's a very unique thing. And so like there's not as much traction as you would think. It's kind of, and I mean, think about it. Like lately I've been like almost invisible on social media. I think I've been kind of kept looking at social media at an arm's length, and like posting was like, I know it's a very common thing, but like posting and trying to, like the burden and pressure of like what to post, and does this even matter, and why is this is like a giant withdrawal from my day-to-day like emotional content or like day-to-day satisfaction, and life's already hard enough. Why am I adding in something that I don't feel like I'm gaining from, and it's just taking? It's been a really weird last handful of months, to be honest. And but like everybody, it's like you got to figure out a way to the dance where, like, what are the right boundaries for it? And to me, taking a little break has been pretty helpful, I think.
That's great. So you were feeling kind of forced to kind of keep up with like your fan base, and
and it's just and it's like I felt like I was just trying to be more myself, and then like I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I definitely had 1,000 more followers last week. That's weird. Okay. I must be doing something wrong. And then it's just like, I was like, why am I giving so much? And it wasn't like, oh, well, I'm just gonna, it wasn't like a defensive, oh, I'll just not post at all. It was just like man, I can't not put my heart and soul into whatever, whether it's music or work or even social media. And there was a phase where like the relationship with it was very reciprocal and like mutual. Like it was like, hey, I put something in and get some feedback. I feel like I'm connecting with people. And it just, I don't know, it was like almost like the wave had kind of concluded. And now I think lately, and also working a ton has not been helpful because I get home and I have no energy. But like having a little bit more free time, I do start to get a little bit more optimistic and hopeful of like, okay, this isn't the end of the social media story or connecting with a broader audience. I just need to figure out the new way to do that. And that sounds exciting to me. I'm not pulling the plug yet or anything, but it's been a unique I think the pandemic stuff as well. My brother and I did a little live stream Vet Pros thing that was super fun and connected with a bunch of people, which was interactive. We'd have audience members jump in, but yeah, man, I have no idea what I'm doing, I think is the end story. But I think I'm starting to realize, as I'm maturing, is like, it's okay to kind of take your time and set up boundaries when you start to realize, like, okay, this is a big time commitment. Right now, is this the right time to be doing this? So
does it take away from like the inspiration when you feel like you're like, oh, I haven't posted in a few days, like I have to post something? Does it kind of turn into more like a job than, you're like you said before, music is your biggest passion next to like working with animals, but does that ever get diminished when you're just like, oh, like I have to create something to kind of stay relevant?
Yeah, for sure. I think for sure. I think the pressure to post something it stifles the creativity, it stifles the joy, it stifles the kind of like, there's a lot of negatives to it. And at the same time, like, I understand that there's components of like my actual job. I'm not going to feel like doing blank, whatever it is, and you just do it. Right. I think it's a little different with social media, where it's just like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't really feel like it. And I don't know. I'm going to take a break, and social media is not going to disappear. It's not going to, I don't know. So like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing most of the time, which is fine,
I've found that that's the vast majority of humans. Every time somebody's like, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing, I'm like, that's the epitome of not knowing what you're actually doing. So I that's what I like a lot recently. People are like, oh my gosh, like, how do you do this? What's going on? I'm just like, I have no idea. I'm taking it 10 minutes at a time, and I'm just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
So going back a little bit, you said that people kind of put you into this, like, just this image of you being a vet who plays music to animals. But as we talked about before that as well, like, you obviously have all these kind of like deeper things that you want to sing about, a lot of other different things. What's the one thing that you wish people knew about you as they like listen to your music, or as they like view you? Like, what's one thing that you would want people to know that will get them outside of just that base image of just you as a musician / vet?
I think people, my guess, and I could be completely wrong, but I think people perceive me as 90% vet who does music as a hobby, and that was interesting, and they saw that, oh, this caught some attention, but music's kind of just like a fun side thing. Where I think the reality is like, being a vet takes a serious amount of time, commitment, like studying, experience. And that makes sense because you get a veterinary degree, you get hired as a doctor at a professional facility. So the credibility is like already there. What I feel like is true is I've put an equal amount of time into music, and there's and that's what's weird about music. You could be the most credible, amazing musician, put in 20,000 hours, and you could be playing at a brewery, and someone listening could go, and they may, outside of being like, oh, that was a really good solo, or he sounds good, outside of that, they might just think that you do it on the side as a hobby, when the reality is you could have the same amount of time behind the scenes as a vet and a musician, and they're perceived completely different, just from almost like a credibility standpoint. So I think that's the hardest thing, I think, is that I feel like I will always be dragging this thing like, oh, it's just a novelty fun side thing, where to me it's as important, and I've put as much time into music as I have as a veterinarian,
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's weird just because, you don't have the official credentials like you do as a veterinarian.
Yeah. Unless you happen to be playing venues and selling, out 1,500 person venues, or are on a radio. Which is like such a crazy, difficult threshold, and I don't know. It's a bummer.
I mean, let's be honest. The talent world isn't just about talent. It's about who can make the most money, right? It's about who's marketable. So I mean, sometimes I go to brewery shows and I hear the most incredible like soloist or duet or something like that. I'm just like, you guys are insane, but they just don't have any like market. Maybe they just don't market themselves because they just love playing, you know. And sometimes you see like really talented people on like a TV show, and then you like listen to their music and you're like, like, I don't know, is this anything special, or is it just molded into this kind of thing to make money? So I totally feel you there.
But, and also I think I'm a very, I have a lot of emotion that I think I bring into the vet world, and I also bring from the vet world into the creative world. So even if I'm not singing about something vet specific, like I'll bring the emotion from that very much into. I mean, I've probably got 7 or 8 songs that I will probably never show anybody.
Well, so instead of showing everybody, what about like what drives the inspiration behind those? Are there like specific events or specific emotions that like really
like literally, like just feeling completely like deflated and like I don't know if I have any more to give and or do, or like I feel like I'm in a dream and I just want to wake up, or vice versa. Like I feel like I don't want to be awake and just want to go back to sleep, you know? But yeah, I mean, I think the highs and lows are in some extent are part of all life. I think for everybody has versions of highs and lows going through life, and life is messy. I mean, but for me, I found that like I've voluntarily walked into a lot of emotionally heavy things that have given me access to feeling like really, really low spots. And I think that's been kind of eye-opening, and that's where music has been a big resource, almost like a vent. I've had multiple songs where I write a line and then I put it to the chords and I can't finish it because I start crying, you know? Like
I don't mean to laugh because it just triggered so many memories for myself of doing the exact same thing.
Like, and most of the time when I'm recording it or putting an idea, I'm recording it. And so there's probably recordings of those first takes of me like, oh, these words are crazy. And I start, and I'm like, and I have to like stop or something. I'm like, okay, I'm recording over that, but Logic saves everything. But anyways, I think that I'm very, very lucky because I know I've grown up with really close friends that have severe depression and clinical, like where I've been on the other side of phone calls, and I'm like, am I going to talk to them again? And like frantic calls to their parents, or I'm just like, we need to figure out where they are. And I've been really close and navigated a lot of that with a handful of people. And so it was surprising. I've been in situations where when I was feeling some of those things, I was like, oh, like these feelings they're different when you're the one behind the wheel experiencing them. And the good thing that I feel lucky is that I have incredibly supportive family and wife, and had already established some type of therapy / counselor, and was able to kind of pull some ripcords to where I got into counseling like the next day, and or talk to my pastor and close friends in our small group. And I mean, I think any time that you're in that, like, it's not sustainable. And you I mean, the bracelet I'm wearing it says ask for help and you matter, which is actually made from a vet who reached out to me. I can't remember which state she's in, but just specifically with depression in vets and suicide in vets being like the second top profession, which is wild. But anyways, but these types of things, like just literally asking for help, I think is incredibly crucial. And having that, even if you don't feel that way, knowing that that's the thing that you do the second you start feeling that way, because even if you're not in like the darkest spots, if you're feeling those sorts of things, you can start to pad and cushion yourself and understand that feeling alone is like you're completely the only person that is feeling like this, and that isolation is usually not true, and that it's going to last forever. Those two things are like the worst two feelings to feel ever, that you're alone and it's going to last forever. But like knowing that ahead of time and being able to dismantle that and or figure out a ripcord to pull yourself out of that is, I think, probably one of the most valuable things that anybody could possibly have.
I don't know about you, but I think it's incredibly hard for people to ask for help. I mean, I'm speaking from personal experience too, just to like take that first step to like not like admit that you have a problem, but just like ask somebody for something so simple.
Yeah.
You know, even just like a favor from a friend. Sometimes it's so hard to just send a text and be like, "Hey, could you do me a favor right now?" Because sometimes like we think that we're not worthy of having a friend help us, and or we think that we are alone and we don't want to pull anybody into our orbit. So I totally understand. I think that bracelet's fantastic, because those are two things that I can definitely sympathize with, feeling alone and feeling like it's going to last like forever.
Yeah.
And those are really hard to get out of, but it's so true. Like there's so many people that feel that same way. And I'm just so happy to like try to just bring it out into the open more, just so people know that they aren't alone.
Yeah.
So that people know that this is a very common occurrence.
Yeah.
And hopefully together we can just get it out there and just maybe just make people more self-aware that they have the power within themselves to change. But it's so hard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and specifically like counseling has been probably one of the most helpful things, because like it's nice to be able to vent and have a friend listen and be present. That's huge. But most people don't, deal with all of the ins and outs of specific situations and or crisis episodes that maybe that someone might be going through. And like someone who's a professional, where like they're being objective but also like can talk with you through it. Part of it is like that's completely reasonable, that makes sense. Oh, like do you absolutely, and like walking through like how you got to somewhere, or kind of understanding why you're feeling a certain way and that you're not crazy.
Yes.
Like, wait a second, like I'm not crazy. Like for thinking these things is life-giving, man. And I know like a lot of people, like counseling, there's ways that are not break the bank too. Like I have Kaiser and it's $30 or something like that, to go see, it's very accessible. And I know different insurances and things like that, but I think it's a huge resource. And I think just the professional, like they're pros in the same way that like if your dog cut its leg open or was vomiting, you'd come to me, right? Like, yeah, you go to a professional and you're not crazy, and that this is, in the same way that we'll get physically sick, we'll have times where, for whatever reasons, we'll be feeling rough, and it's good to walk through that.
I think I gotta completely agree with you on the objectivity, and then also just like perspective. I love chatting with friends, but lots of times friends, because they're good friends, are going to be like, "You got this, I believe in you," and then you go to a counselor or a therapist, and they will give you the objectivity and the perspective that you need to be like, "Oh, okay, like I do need to change some things," or like I do need some accountability. And I think that that's really crucial, because sometimes you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear, but I think sometimes those are the things that like really help you wake up a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. For
Go to
sure.
therapy, everybody. It's
Yeah.
so good for you.
It's the best. I remember talking to you once, I can't remember where it was, but you were saying like, even if you're doing great, therapy's only going to make you even better.
Yeah. Well, because I was told that by a good friend of mine. I was like, no, I'm doing fine. He's like, even if you're doing fine, I would still recommend therapy for everybody. So I finally got the courage to go, and I started seeing a therapist. This is probably about 3 years ago or so. And just over those 3 years, like the amount of work that we've put in has been incredible.
Yeah.
And like, I thought I was in a pretty good spot. Turns out I needed help, but I was very reluctant to ask for it. I finally did, and I'm finally now over these humps, and like now I see my life now compared to even 6 to 7 months ago, and I just always am just so proud. And if my therapist watches this, don't tell her I said that. I'm just so proud of being able to look behind me and see the progress that I've made, which is something that took me so long to be able to admit.
Yeah.
But it is like, it's, therapy is work, but it's all about becoming a better version of yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to be messed up or like have issues in the beginning to start.
Yep.
It just means that you're just going to try to take who you are and just bring out the best in yourself.
Yeah. I think it's very good to kind of have an understanding of who you are and what your Achilles heel, like kind of, default things like to escape or whatever are, and how those can kind of build up and things.
I think we need a more modern metaphor. Let's go with like the Horcrux or something like that. From like Harry Potter. Achilles heel is so 2,000
I was
years
going to say
ago.
like a schema. Or like a, but I remember specifically because I had a first counselor, which my wife and I went to counseling, which was incredibly helpful. It was recommended by a friend, and this guy was pretty expensive, but I found myself like protecting and still trying to like, I want him to think of me in a certain way and all this stuff. And I feel like I blocked some of the benefits that I could have gotten. He definitely helped us kind of get through Beck and I's like that time frame. But after that, when I went into the counselor that I use now, that I love, when we started talking, I was just like, I literally have nothing to lose. Like, I'm just going to be like bluntly honest and like, I'm paying this guy to be objective. Yep. Here it is. And I like kind of, and we've just had this like very like, and that's where I was just like, okay, the second I was just like, I was doing therapy wrong first. And not wrong. I was still kind of guarding, like I was talking to somebody, like a friend or something. Anyways. So it was kind of a fun threshold that I burst through when I was just like, no, this is exactly like, like even when I was wrestling with some, like, for me, like my, like navigating, like my view of my Christianity and stuff. And I was like, you're not religious, are you? Cause like, if you are, like, I'm going to have to switch. And, and that was like my goal going in. And I found out later he is, but he's like, no, you talk completely whatever you want to say. Like you're not going to, and actually he helped me work through a lot of stuff with that. And I feel in a really good place. So ironically he was, but he was like the safest person ever. Cause I think he said like a swear word or something. And I was just like, yes. Give me your vulnerability. I was like, thank you for saying that. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, man, for sure. Anyway, so that was super cool. Like, it's like our own little bubble. It's just like, all right, expectations go away. So anyways.
That's so great. I mean, and that's another hard thing to do, is to be vulnerable, especially with a stranger, somebody who you've never met before. Yeah. I don't know what like possessed me, but in my first ever session, I walk in, I sit down, and I look at my therapist, and she's like, so, tell me, like, what's going on? And I was like, okay, so you're my therapist, right? She's like, yeah. I was like, and everything I say stays right here, right? She goes, yes. Yeah. And I go, okay. Bleh. And I just like word vomit everything that's just been on my conscience. And after 45 minutes, I was like, oh my gosh, just that feels so much better. She's like, awesome. Now we have like a framework and we can start working. I was like, yes. And I was so into it, It was nice to just like unburden all of your secrets to somebody who, number one, will always treat you with just respect and just humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, like, they're going to take your weaknesses and help you turn them into strengths. You know, it's just such a cool feeling. So I'm so glad to just like meet other people. Well, to know that my friends are also seeing counselors, because I think it's such a good way to just really uplift your life.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us, I had you prepare a song for this show, and I listened to it this morning. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's it's out. It's not the, it's not the Animal Planet accessible, made for over 50-year-old women song. It was like kind of this fun little pop project, like getting into the. And I actually had a guy help me out with the production, and he's a wizard. His name's Jack Roberts, but he like completely took it into a very unique place. But it was really fun. It was inspired by someone close to me going through kind of a breakup, and one of the parties wanted to get back together, and the other one was just like, there's no chance. And this like melody and all this stuff kind of kept coming back, and I was like, this is really, really cool. And like the first little string sample thing was very like hip hoppy, and then I don't know, it's got some like Maroon 5 kind of verse vibes as well, which is pretty cool. But the chorus, like when it hits, you're just like, my neck's gonna fall off.
You just can't help but bopping. I love it.
Yeah. So.
And what's the name of the song?
It's called "It's All in Your Head," and it's pretty much just like from the person received, like, hey, I screwed up. Let's get back together. It's like, if you think there's any chance that it's in your head, because this is the reality is like we gotta go different ways, which is fine.
Yeah.
So that has to happen.
I can't relate. I've never been there before. All right, we're gonna listen to Ross Henderson's "It's All in Your Head."
It's all in your head. The words have been said. I already told you. I'll give you your closure. Listen closely now. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. I try to let you know, but your feelings can't let go. It's your creative mind that'll leave you far behind. I see you holding on to something that ain't there. I wish that I could be honest and say I care. It's just a feeling, though you think that it may be true. There ain't no future with all the damage you put us through. It's all in your head. The words have been said. I already told you. I'll give you your closure. Listen closer now. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. Sorry it's taking so long for you to come around. Imagination has got you, but the real world will say whatever it needs to. I'll give you credit for all of that optimism, but you'll wake up one day and break free from your prison. It's just a feeling, though you think that it may be true. There ain't no future with all the damage you put us through. It's all in your head. The words have been said. I already told you. I'll give you your closure. Listen closely now. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. Oh man, here we go. Ain't no doubt it had us fooled for a minute there.
I think I'm crazy.
Ain't no doubt it was good for a minute there. Ain't no doubt it had us fooled for a minute there. Only for a minute though. It's all in your head. The words have been said. I already told you. I'll give you your closure. Listen closely now, it's all in your head. The words have been said. I already told you. I'll give you your closure. Listen closely now, it's all in your head. It's all in your head.
Ross, that was a really great song. You're right. I couldn't help but bob my head, and there's some really choice lines in there that I really, really enjoy. So great song. Thanks
Yeah,
for sharing that
thanks,
with us.
man.
And again, like that's something that so many people can also relate to. I'm sure that there are so many people that have been in that exact same situation. Like that person's the one. Like we got to get back together. The other person's just not into it. And
Yeah. Ironically, I do have. Oh, now that I think about it, I have the other side of that song, which is really heartbreaking. It's called "Before You Go," and that's with my band Wild Goose Chase, which we just released actually also. But anyways, that song is super heartbreaking, and that's like a little Easter egg if somebody wants to track that
so
down.
it's like the A and the B
Yeah,
side.
no,
Oh,
literally, because
I
the
love that.
one, and then the other one's like, oh, you've decided, but before you go, help me believe this is better for us both somehow. Yeah, it's a good song.
Make sure you guys go check that one out. What was the name of the band one more time?
Wild Goose Chase, and it's Before You Go, and the artwork is a bunch of shoes.
Very self-explanatory.
Makes
So Ross, as we wrap up here, so through all this, number one, just thank you so much for like truthfully opening up and being vulnerable on the show with me, because like that really means the world to me. It just makes it like it makes me feel better to know that I have good friends that are just in the same place. So to counteract that, like how do you stay centered? How do you stay happy? Like what do you do for yourself that just like really helps you stay centered and aligned?
Yeah. The obvious one is like last night I played for 3 hours in Golden, some music, and that's always like I feel like it's kind of for me, you know, and it's great to see. I've got a handful of people that usually show up and family and stuff, and I can see them having fun. And I think the first maybe 6-7 years when I'd play, I was like super like I gotta make sure I keep everybody happy in the business and all this stuff. And lately I've just been having so much fun walking through the tables, sitting, opening my mouth, and people feeding me at their table that I've never met before. And like it's been hilarious, and everybody loves it. It fills my soul, and that's by far one of my favorite things. The other thing is like getting completely away. Like the last weekend, I was up in the mountains at a friend's, and they don't have cell service or power, and nobody could send me pictures of their dog's poop for like that amount of time. And it was like so refreshing. My dog was there, my wife was there, with good friends, and I think those two things are probably my favorite for sure.
That's so great, man.
Yeah, man.
Good to take care of yourself. We should play a cover gig sometime together.
Oh, for sure.
Because we're competent enough musicians where it's just like I do this song.
I've actually had a bunch
key.
of people jump in.
Yeah.
I've got one on the 25th of September from 11 to 2.
I'll see what I can do.
11 to 2.
But I've got a lot of open gigs too, and it's fun to just because I have the same thing. So maybe we'll just stay in contact and
sure,
just
dude.
get something going.
Yeah, that would be so easy.
So where can people find your gigs and your music and everything like that?
So Facebook, Dr. Ross Henderson, or Instagram, Dr. Ross Henderson, or TikTok, Dr. Ross Henderson, or Twitch, Ross A. Henderson. I haven't been on Twitch for a while. I have to be careful with Twitch.
Yeah.
That's a longer story.
That's for round 2 when you come back.
Yeah, but in any of those profiles, the link in the bio has a link to all of the things that I'm kind of involved with or doing.
Excellent.
But I just remembered us in Scotland playing
on the Royal Mile.
We were busking and on the Royal Mile, and we were just playing songs and freestyling and just had people cracking up because we're singing.
We were making up lyrics
about like something on somebody's shirt. Or,
we sang that song because there was a gal walking by with like a purple jacket. We sang like purple jacket, and then like her husband turned and was like, "Oh, they're talking about you," and then they came back and like dropped us a pound. We're like, "Thank you."
That was so fun, man. That was so cool, you coming out to Scotland, man. It was such a fun time.
It was a blast. But that was a time that I'll never forget, too. Just, man, it was just such a good time. Just playing. It's always a good time playing with you. We've just popped in and out a few times on each other's shows, and it's like, it's always a pleasure. In fact, my going away show a few years ago in September when you played with Francis and Bo, I still get people talking about that all the time. And they're like, I just love the fact that you had like all these great musicians come and play. And I'm like, I'm just lucky enough that I have all these great musician friends.
You have awesome friends. You have lots of great artist friends, and I can't wait to hear the ends of their worlds on the next episodes.
Definitely. All right, Dr. Ross Henderson, man, always good seeing you.
Tony, thank you for being one of my favorite people. Thank you for having me on this amazing show. Anybody who's watching or listening, definitely subscribe. He's one of the best guys I know, and talking about real life, because there's not enough of that. There really isn't. And
that's true.
It's good to feel human. And it's good to feel things and navigate that together as people, I think, is all we could ever hope for, man.
I'm just going to have you come on and always do the outro for every show. Thank you so much for the kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Flow Within. I'm your host, Tony G. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.